Quantity versus quality. Beauty versus the beast. Art versus athletics. You are just as unique, just as important, just as precious as anyone else on the earth, in spite of how fast or how strong or how smart everyone else seems to be. Hi everybody, I'm Roger Simpson, clinical hypnotist at theflowcenter.com in Dallas. You can reach us at theflowcenter.com or hypnosisoverthephone.com or at my private number 214-699-6627. Now, I try to keep these posts in the 5 to 7 minute time period, that range, about the time of the average short talk that's common to many speaking clubs. My wife Jill recently remarked that I sometimes try to get too much into each one of my posts here, my video blogs. I used to have a musician friend that, like many of my musical associates in my early days, viewed becoming a better musician as an athletic event instead of as an art. Something relating to strength rather than beauty. Just as an example, as a guitar friend, a player I used to gig with, let's call him Carlos. When we were on the road, cooped up in our motel room, Carlos would sit in the bathroom because of the natural reverb of the porcelain and the privacy, I suppose, and he would play scales and arpeggio exercises to the metronome on his guitar, increasing the speed a little each day and each week. He came out one day all excited, the most excitement I'd seen in him in weeks, tears of joy in his eyes, and he proclaimed, "I just played my scales in 16th notes at quarter note equals 144. Now, just to cut through all that muso jargon, musician talk, that meant that he could play a stream of notes real fast in a blur on his guitar. Now, the thing is with playing for speed is that just like the gunslingers in the Old West, there's always someone faster. And even if you are the fastest, you got to maintain that speed. Now, Pablo Casals, the famous cello player of the last century, I suppose, once said at the age of 80 that if he missed practicing one day, he would notice. If he missed 2 days, his friends would notice. And if he missed 3 days, the whole entire world would notice. I think he exaggerated a little on that last one. The problem was when we said, "Take it, man," to Carlos, he would play dozens of notes in the first 3 seconds of his solo in a continuous blur. And you could see the average person in the crowd, their eyes widen for a split second in surprise, and then they'd go back to socializing and completely ignore him. Now, he was fantastic, practiced and polished, but he left most of the audience in a blur of notation in the first 3 seconds, not taking them along with him on his musical journey of imagination. This kept Carlos playing in groups, for sure, as a guitar player, because, to other musicians, he was over the top impressive. But when we played a gig featuring a sax player, an undergrad from a local university, who played at warp speed by comparison and whose imagination had been touched by the finger of God, Carlos packed up his guitar at that gig and went home after the first set, probably to practice on his speed. When I was looking down at my feet and noticing my socks had been completely blown off, I think that Carlos said something like, "Hey, Rock, here's my keys. Would you mind following me out to the parking lot and backing my car out while I put my fingers under the left front tire? After Tommy plays, there's nothing left to say." Meaning anything Carlos played after the crowd heard Tommy, the sax player, the undergrad, would be second place, and the guitar player Carlos could not take second place because of the way that he approached his art, in my opinion. The reason I'm telling you this story is because of something I covered, maybe glazed or blurred over in a previous video, and that is what we do at the Flow Center during our sessions, and that's called ego strengthening. And ego strengthening has two parts, and these happen toward the end of the focused relaxation part of a visit with us. The first is to have every part of the client's mind agree with the statement that everyone on this planet is a unique, important, and precious individual. And once that agreement is reached, in other words, all parts of the client's mind and inner mind agree to that concept, then the second part of the ego strengthening is used. And that is, once the client's subconscious mind has agreed to every human being being unique, important, and precious, and the subconscious already knows that the client is, of course, a human being, then all parts of the client's mind is asked to agree with this statement, that he or she is just as unique, important, and precious as any other human being. Listen, going at life in terms of competition from a quantity-oriented frame of mind, more is better, often ends in dissatisfaction with life, because even if you are the strongest, the fastest, the smartest, and or the wealthiest, time will chip away at your winning status, and you'll be left at some point with no point to your life. On the contrary, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Living a life of quality rather than quantity is open-ended to infinity and beyond. And we all know what is beyond infinity, don't we? This is Roger Simpson, clinical hypnotist at theflowcenter.com. You can reach us at theflowcenter.com in Dallas, or at hypnosisoverthephone.com, or at my private number 214-699-6627. Beyond infinity. See you next time.